Well, thank you so much, Kellen, for joining me today. As I said, Kellen is an author, a speaker, performer, executive, a catalyst. Like, he is flipping amazing and has so much energy. Just the short time that I spoke to him, you can just see the energy just oozing out of his pores. So, Kellen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Deanna, thank you for having me. And I want to honor you because a podcast, video, audio, both either is a labor of love. You do a lot of work, you pour your heart and soul into it, you have a purpose and mission. And I love those people that have got mission driven lives. And so I want to honor you for the effort and work you're putting in for yourself and for your audience.
Well, thank you so much, Kellen. And Kellen, I'm going to have you say your last name because I will slaughter it.
Yeah, it's funny because in the industry I was in the energy industry for 30 years, from 1977 to 2007. And I had, really high profile executive, and this, that, and the other. But either because my last name was so complicated or because I was such a high profile person, which is also true. I had bodyguards at one time. Anyway,
Oh,
I
wow.
was a one name person. Kellan. Is Kellan coming? Kellan this, Kellan that. But anyway, the last name is pronounced Flukiger. Flukiger. It's weird. It's Swiss, and I love it. Flukiger.
I love names that are unique, and everybody slaughters my name too. So my maiden name, and then they mispronounce my married name, and I'm okay with that because it's different.
Well,
There's
I
only
don't
one of
know if
me.
it's Hinz or Heinz.
That's what everybody does. It's Hins, but yes,
Hinz. That's
it's
my
German
first thought
also.
was Hinz because it doesn't have the E in it, but I would have
Yep.
thought Hinz.
But
Yeah.
most people will say Heinz, and I
Yeah.
I correct them. So I get it, and I appreciate you helping me out with that. So Kelly, you have written some books, and one book that I really want to talk about today is The Results Equation. And the reason I want to talk about that is because the subtitle is From Dream to Done in 5 Simple Steps. And your podcast, you have The Ultimate Life, right? That's what you're talking about all the time, is how to create this amazing and wonderful life. So let's start with, before we get into how to actually do this and what these 5 steps look like, how did you get started speaking on this topic and writing on this topic?
I had a 30-year career, as I mentioned, in energy, and big hoopla and a lot of money and a lot of fame and all that jazz. But behind the scenes, I was a very unhappy, miserable person. I'd struggled with depression all my life. I was raised in a very strict religious home, which included a lot of discipline that today would be felony child abuse. I would have been removed from the home, that sort of thing. It left me feeling not good enough. And even though I was blessed with a lot of brains, the drive that I had to accomplish something was all based on I got to prove myself to particularly my mom, because she was the one that did the discipline. My dad was there, but he was working most of the time. So anyway, I lived, and I never talked to anyone. It was all private, hide it. So I lived a dual life, a life of ostentatious wealth, power, and position on the outside. And behind the scenes, I was a wreck. I burned through multiple relationships. I had addiction issues. I struggled. And it was like a movie where you have, whoa, on one side and holy crap on the other side. So it was kind of like that. And that went on for 35 years, from the time I left home, 17, until 52. And at 52 in 2007, I basically had a divine intervention. God said, look, this is enough. And obviously, there's never any force involved. It's always an invitation. But the invitation was so strong and powerful that I got sober in one day. I was addicted to cocaine, and at $3,000 a week. And I was making so much money that didn't matter. That
Wow.
was lunch money. But I was a wreck, a disaster, wasting money like crazy and living a complete dual life, like, life in the fast lane kind of nonsense. And it's tragic. And the only reason it's important now is two reasons. One, it created in me and a tremendous sense of empathy and patience and compassion for those that are struggling with any kind of barrier. And the other reason is, after the invitation, which there were two parts, and the second part brought my wife Joy, and her name's Joy, into my life 14 years ago in a magic occurrence that can't happen either. Um, in a way that has allowed me to pursue my ultimate life, which is to help. Right now, my first goal, my near-term goal is to help 10 million people discover, develop, and serve with their divine gifts. And that's through writing and podcasting. I have a coaching practice. I run seminars, that kind of stuff. So.
Uh, Amazing. I don't even know where to begin with all that. Mental health and addiction is pretty common. I think everybody who's listening, everybody that we come in contact with knows one person who's dealing with either one or both of those things.
Mhm.
How did you know? I know you said there was a divine intervention and in one day you got sober. How did you do that? Like, what spoke to you? And I know everybody is different, but
Friday
what was
night,
it that spoke to you?
a Friday night in August of 2007, this was at the height of everything. I was making that so much money that kind of the waste on drugs didn't matter, but I was a total disaster. I came home on a Friday night in August of 2007, and was getting ready to go out and party for the weekend. I have 10 children from 3 failed marriages, and 4 of them were teenagers living with me, and I was a single dad for the 3rd time. And so I was getting ready to go out and party for the weekend, and it literally would have been till Monday or Tuesday. And as I ready to go out, I had this urge to turn on the TV. Now, that doesn't sound like anything, except I didn't watch TV. And I didn't even know how to turn it on. I'd had the local electronics people come in and put in the biggest, coolest, all that jazz you can have, because of course that's what you buy, right? But I didn't watch TV, so I didn't even know how to turn it on. So I had to have one of my kids come in and show me how to turn it on. My 16-year-old daughter turned it on, the remote, threw it at me, dummy, stomped out of the room. And so it landed. I didn't know any programs, but it landed accidentally on a program titled Intervention. Now, Intervention, if you don't know, is a reality TV show about families who stage interventions for busted loved ones. Yay. So I watched about 10 minutes of it, and the protagonist was a high-ranking executive with a cocaine problem. So I'm sitting
Wow.
thinking, okay, that's me. Screw this. I'm not watching it. So I turned it off, stomped around the house for a few more minutes and getting ready to go out. And I just felt compelled to turn it on again. So this is, quite a bit later, 15, 20 minutes later. And that program started over at the beginning. And no, I don't have a DVR. And no, it wasn't on the schedule. And no, it can't do that. So I thought, okay, I'm supposed to watch this. It scared me to death, actually. So I sat down and watched it. It went really badly. The guy yelled at his family, stomped out, wouldn't take the help. It went really badly. But that scared me enough that I didn't go out. I went to bed. So when I went to bed, I went to hell. And what I mean by that is I was in out of body somewhere. I had this experience of everything that had happened in my life from when I was young and had the crap beat out of me all the time to my own. It all focused around the sorrow, the pain and suffering that I had either been given or that I had inflicted on others. So it was this long, slow drama, not in an angry, screaming way at anybody, but just the truth rolling out before my eyes. And after a long time, I heard a voice and it said, "It is enough." And it wasn't an angry voice. It is enough. So I came to, and I woke up, came to, whatever. And it was Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock. So 18 hours I had been somewhere. And I got up and I realized that I had been invited in the most profound way, suitable for my thick-headedness, I suppose, to change my life. And I knew I have to get out of the business. I have to get out of this industry. I have to completely walk away from all this. So I got up and I threw $1,000 worth of stuff away that I had laying around and quit cold turkey and never touched it again. And that was for part one, because that got me sober, but it didn't do anything with the decades of depression that I had never talked to anyone about. 2 weeks later, I hadn't resigned the contracts that I had, and I had millions of dollars worth of contracts that I walked away from. I walked away from the entire industry, just all of it. But before I did that, 2 weeks later, because of the position that I held, I used to get free stuff. I made decisions that were worth billions of dollars to different companies, and people were really nice to me. They gave me stuff, tickets and expensive bottles of wine and, all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
one of the things I got were 2 tickets to see Yo-Yo Ma. And if you're anything about classical music, you know who that is. If you don't, it's fine. But he's like, oh, right. Okay. Well, I didn't want to waste this other ticket, and I'm single for the 3rd time. So I went to the groups that I managed and I said, who likes classical music? And some lady in one of the groups said, well, I do. And I said, have I ever given you anything before? And she said, no. I said, okay, fine. Here, see you there. So I gave her the ticket and we met at the concert and halfway through the show, and it was electrifying, amazing. I had this feeling that I recognized from 2 weeks before. And I'm stone cold sober now, 2 weeks, straight up.
Yeah.
And this feeling came over me, and a voice said to me, you need to marry this woman. And
Oh
I
my
said,
goodness.
you're insane. I said, I failed spectacularly at that 3 times officially and some other stuff in between. I said, yeah, no, not happening. And later that night, we were backstage because, of course, they were backstage passes. So we're back there meeting people and everything. And then I came back and said, comma, and you need to tell her tonight. Yeah. Kind of like
What?
that. If she can call the cops, she can have me arrested for harassment. I said, come on. I don't even know her that well. Like, this is nuts. But
Yes.
you don't win
2
those.
weeks max, right? That you've known her,
Well,
but
she worked in my group for a long time, but one of the
didn't really
groups that
talk
I
to her.
managed, I didn't know her very well. I mean, I knew who she was. But
Oh my
anyway,
goodness.
I argued like crazy, but you don't win those arguments. So I did, and it went about like you would have expected. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
But she didn't call the cops. So that was good. Or sue me with harassment or something. But anyway, within 2 weeks after that, which was now with 4 weeks from my initial experience, she had her own set of experiences and resigned from her very beautiful career. She was a project manager, made good money, and walked off into the sunset with a drug addict. And we celebrated our 14th anniversary 2 weeks ago. And
Oh
her
my
name is
gosh.
Joy. Like, you can't make this stuff up. And the
Wow.
reason that was the second half of this intervention is she was the angel that was brought to help me deal with the other half of the problem, which was the depression. Everybody in the office knew I was an addict. They didn't know, but they knew, rumors and
Yeah.
stuff. So she was unflagging in her support, finding me somebody to talk to for the first time in my life, to tell the truth, to learn to have a friend, to learn to be a friend, to learn to know what it was like to even, I mean, like, I had never talked to anyone the truth about what I felt like ever inside.
Right.
And that was hers. And I've asked her a million times, like, what on earth possessed you to quit that job that you had and walk off into the sunset with a drug addict? I said, what were you thinking? And she said, I don't know, except I knew to the core of my soul it was the right thing to do.
Wow.
So that's a divine intervention.
Yes, it is. That
Okay.
multiple times I got goosebumps listening to that. And kudos to you. I mean, honestly, for listening to that voice, because how many times do we hear that voice try to guide us or push us, and we ignore it? We do what we want
Mostly,
to do. Right,
mostly.
absolutely, mostly. So not only did you listen multiple times, you changed your entire life based off of that, and obviously it was definitely for the better because now you are inspiring other people to do the same and to live these amazing lives. How long after that happened did you say, I think I'm going to write a book, or I think I'm going to start speaking and teach others
It
how to do
it took
this?
3 or 4 years for me to even learn to tell the truth, to talk to enough counselors, to not psychoanalyze myself and pretend like I had control of everything. And after 3 or 4 years, so 2008, 9, 10, 11, I wrote my first books, a series on meditation in 2009, 10, I think, and then started writing books. I wrote my own story, Tightrope of Depression, after that, and then the sequel called Down from the Gallows. And then I started writing business books, The Results Equation and others. And then I wrote one called The Story Arc, which is about how to write books, because I realized I'd created a really good system to do that. Because I wasn't an author. I hadn't ever imagined myself as an author. Now I love it. And I've written 16 books and I have 7 underway.
Oh
So
my goodness.
and I run classes like 3 or 4 times a year, small ones, 5 or 6 people at a time, in 90 days to finish a book. And I help them do that. And it's just become, because so many people have stories to tell, so many people have truth to share, so many people have experiences that they know in their heart would do somebody some good, but they're afraid to do it. And they say, well, I don't know, nobody would listen, I don't really know, I don't know how to do it, it's so hard, I don't have time, maybe later when fill in the blank, you know.
Yes,
And so
you're right. You're right.
I don't do anything. I do one thing. I would say I don't do anything except I do one thing from the first breath to last. I'm committed to helping 10 million people discover, develop, and serve with their divine gifts. Whether I'm doing music, I'm in a recording studio. I did an album of music with each of the 2 depression books, Tightrope and Down from the Gallows. I write books. I do a podcast. I get to meet beautiful people like you and your audience. And my only purpose is that. So you said you wanted to talk about the results equation.
Yes, I do. And what are the 5 steps? I mean, you mentioned finding your divine gifts. How do you find your divine gifts, first off? Let's
First of
start
all,
there.
you have to look. You have to look. And you don't look with a pick and shovel in the backyard. It's not something you go dig up, right?
Yeah.
People often say to me, well, I do more, but I'm not clear and I need some clarity. Well, clarity is overrated. It's not found, it is created. And yes, that rhymes. But yes, clarity is overrated. It is not found, it is created. And so you have to go act and you have to do things. And you'll discover them. Your heart is pulled in certain directions. And every single person listening to this right now knows exactly what I'm talking about. And we mostly ignore that. And we mostly say this, that, and the other. And learning to trust the divine and intuition is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, let alone the people that you're going to serve and will serve. The best gift you can give to the world is to be fully, authentically, and completely yourself. All in, no holds barred, no excuses, open, loving, and in service.
Yes.
You'll make more money, you'll be happier, and you'll have an exciting life every day. In fact, you'll live the ultimate life. Yay.
Yes, yes. So let's talk about that. The 5 steps. I love that.
All right. So this is a business book. I realized in my career, I was called on to do the Mission Impossible stuff, no guns and bombs, but really difficult things when there was a lot of money at stake, billions, often tens of billions sometimes, and a lot of angry people. And I got called in to fix things. And I did it over and over again in the United States, in Canada. I testified before Congress in the US. I had a contract with the Queen of England, and all kinds of high profile stuff. And what I realized afterwards, when I started thinking about it, was there's a process. Every goal, no matter whether it's creating a new product, making $1 million, losing weight, finding a relationship, has 2 parts. You're here and you want to be here. Okay. I don't care. You're A and you want to be B. That's what you want. Okay.
Right.
And what I noticed is that there is a very duplicable process to move from A to B, no matter what A is and no matter what B is. And so I created what I called the results equation. It's 5 parts. I think I called it an equation because once upon a time I was a math major in college. And so maybe I like equations or something, but there's no math in it. It starts with being truthful and understanding where you are. So the first step is UP, and they're all acronyms. UP stands for understand the present. You have to be truthful and tell the truth about where you really are. In the goal you're talking about. If it's money, how much money do you really have right now? How much are you making? Like, what is the truth here? No excuses, no drama. It's not time to beat up. It's just, here's the truth.
Yes.
The second step, and there are several questions and steps in each of these, but that's step 1. Step 2 is me, and that stands for mental earthquake. And the reason I use the word mental earthquake is because the thinking, attitudes, behaviors, beliefs, and everything that you have right now got you where you are. So we have to have an earthquake. We have to change those. You have to become a new person. Okay? That doesn't believe some of those things.
Easier said than done.
It is easier said than done. But I wrote another book about that called The Book of Context, about how to change beliefs. But anyway, so the mental earthquake part, and there's steps and processes in there. It's not just, okay, go be somebody else. But you have to first recognize, look, the person I am got me where I am. And I don't have to yell at him, and I don't have to be mad at him, and I don't have to hate him, and I don't have to make him bad. But I do have to recognize that my habits and beliefs and practices and actions got me here. And now I want to be somewhere else. So what habits and practices need to change so I can be the person that creates this outcome up here? No, again, no drama. This isn't flog yourself. It's okay. It's just truth. I have to do different things, be somebody else. All right. And then there's a whole process. And I use earthquake because you learn not only how to create power, because you need power to travel from here to here. You don't fall up the mountain. So
Right.
you got to create power to do that. So you have to create power, and then you have to learn how to make that power rumble on command. And I use rumble on command, and that's why I called it a mental earthquake.
But I
Anyway,
love it, right? Because it creates that visual. I can see that.
and that's the whole point. And step 3 is CF, create the future. Here's the thing. Most of us have half-assed dreams and their wishes, and they think, oh, it'd be so nice if I had a nice house and a big thing and a lot of money, and my relatives this, and my partner did better, and my partner supported me. I had a client right now that says, well, but I would really be nice to have my wife doesn't share my vision. Look, you can't control anybody else. What you're going to do is you're either going to allow them to control you by the fact that they don't support you right now, or you're going to go do what you want. And I don't mean in a negative, crummy way, but stop making excuses. Stop letting them
Yes.
be your excuse for failure. So creating the
Oh, that's
future,
good. That's good. Because we do that. We do that a lot. It's easier to deflect and say, "Well, it's because of this," right? We play the victim. So I like that.
we talk about the 3 Ds: deflection, distraction, and discouragement. So, I'm trying to tell you whole contents of a book in 2 minutes. But anyway,
Yes.
so creating the future, the goal
They're gonna have
of
to buy
creating
the
the
book to get
future,
the real, like,
you
deep
you
dirt
do
on it.
you do, and I run 90-day workshops to help people with a specific goal. They come in small ones, like 5 or 6 people. Here's what you are now. Here's what you're going to do in 90 days, and then we use the results equation and we help you get there. Anyway, create the future. The purpose of that is create a vision of the future that is so real and so powerful for you that it perpetually fires the drive to make it real. And
Mhm.
that's about visioning and how to create the truth, like details and feelings and reasons, like why do you want it and how will it feel? And it's all the pieces that people associate with the law of attraction kind of stuff. That kind of powerful vision is really important. And you might do it with vision boards, you might do it in all kinds of other ways, but none of that is the key. The key is, does it fire your drive? Does the
Mm.
vision you have articulated, does every time you read that vision out loud, you weep, you tremble, you get goosebumps, you pump your fist? Like, does that do that? Then if it doesn't, get a new vision, fix it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Step
Yeah.
4 is CP, courageous planning. Courageous planning is the step that is contained in all kinds of books about goals and time bound and all of the pieces that have to do with how to set and achieve goals. And so it's very detailed. The key piece of that's called a step map, which not only breaks the goal down into all the appropriate steps, but there's a process where you assign times, who's going to do them, how long they'll take, does it require money, and then you put that on your own personal calendar. This is especially important for solopreneurs because you have so many things you're doing and you think, well, I'm going to get this done in a month. And you actually don't count the hours it's going to take and put them on your calendar. And so you have no idea whether or not you're going to get it done in a month. You just said that so you
Yes.
could feel good. So this is
Right.
a process about turning the actions to get from A to B into reality by breaking them down, assigning times, putting them in the calendar, seeing if they fit. If they don't fit in the time you want, extend the goal, shrink the project, or get some help. I mean, this is not
Yes.
magic. Okay.
Right, right. Yeah, and I've been guilty of doing that too, right? I'm like, I'm setting a goal with every intention that I hope to meet it at that time. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But unless I break up those little pieces, uh, yeah, I usually get overwhelmed and I push it on the back burner, push it out, push it out. So I love that.
And
And what's
step 5 is called relentless execution. And
yes,
relentless execution isn't, whips and chains and beat yourself to death and go, go. It's not that, even though relentless execution might sound like that. It is a very special process for doing one thing. When you have a great day, you get a lot done, you feel good, and like some wind at your back, and it's like, yeah. And then you have mediocre days that are kind of like, oh, some things go well, a lot of things don't, and you tough it out and hope tomorrow's better. And then you have rotten days where things just fall apart. When I
yeah,
do a very imperfect survey of people, they tell me usually, well, I might have 10 or 15% rotten days, and I might have 50 or 60 or 70% mediocre days where stuff is okay. You know, a few things happen, a few things don't. And I just hope tomorrow's better. And I only have 5 or 10% great days. And I asked simply the question, what would it do to your productivity and your spirits if 75% of your days were great days where you felt like the wind was at your back, you were
Yeah.
in flow, and you had all the power and vision you wanted? And people say, well, I get 5 times as my, that kind of talk, right?
Yeah.
And so relentless execution is about how to have 75% great days.
Oh my gosh. This is definitely a book that every entrepreneur should have on their bookshelf. And it's not just a one-time read. This is a go back and read it again and read it again until you master all 5 of these steps. This is amazing. I can't wait to get my hands on this and read it.
I've already written, but it's not published yet, a guide, an application guide that's nothing but over and over again places to write and to draw and to do your goals and to do the things. So it's going to be a little bit bigger than the 6x9, probably 7x10, with lots of places to do it, even though in the book itself I did put some spaces to write down your goals, but that's only once. So it's very much meant to be a go do this. It's not
Yes.
read it and say, oh wow, that was cool, because
Right.
that's going to be useless for you.
Right. Absolutely. It's almost like, you know how most people will say, well, these are the books I want to read. I want to read like a book a month, right? In the beginning of the year. This is almost like just put this on your calendar for every January or every December to
Mhm.
reread it and to set those initiatives and those goals in motion with whatever it is that you want to achieve in creating your ultimate life.
Yep.
So, Kellen, so how can we buy this book? How can we get it?
One of the benefits of having a weird name like Kellan Fluckiger is that I'm really easy to find. So if you put my name in on Google, there's thousands of hits from not only my coaching work in the last 10 years, but the executive career before that, all that stuff I told you about, not the bad stuff. That's not in there. It's in the books, but it's not on Wikipedia. It's not on Google yet, or ever, I hope. But anyway, so there's thousands of hits from all that other stuff. If you put my name in on Amazon, all the books and all the music, I've done a dozen albums. I've been in performing groups, et cetera, et cetera. So on all social media, I mean, like there's only 2 Kellan Flukigers in the world, and the other one's my son. So if you want to find me or the books or get in touch with me, my email's, Coach Kellan Flukiger, gmail.com. I had no trouble getting the website of my name, right? Because there aren't any. So who else would want www.kellanflukiger.com,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So I'm not hard to find on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. And so if you want to chat, if I can help you in some way, or if you want to talk and see whatever, that's fine. I'm easy to find. So that's how.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'm going to have all of those links that Kellen just mentioned. They're all in the show notes. So just head down, scroll down, and check out the show notes. And you are going to see all the links so that if you want to purchase the book, if you want to reach out to Kellen and say, hey, or hire him as a coach, you can do that. So, Kellen, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being here so much. I love everything you shared. I'm super motivated now to go and do all of these steps, get that book and dive deeper into these steps so I can continue creating the ultimate life. So thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. And again, I want to end by honoring the work that you do and the effort that you're making to add good to the world. I just want to leave everybody with one thought. If you're here and you want to get here, there's no question that there is a road from here to here. The only question is, are you, or me, but are you willing to do the work that it takes to walk that
Mm,
path? That's it. There's a road.
yes,
Are you willing to walk it?
that's a beautiful word to end this on. So thank you for sharing that. All right, everybody, I will catch you next week. We'll see ya.